Hi friends, welcome to another video. My name is Dane. I post videos all about Australia and how to move here on a working holiday visa. In this video, I'm going to be discussing 10 things that I hate, not necessarily hate, but 10 things that I dislike about living in Australia. I just posted another video called 10 Things I Love About Living in Australia. I just want to preface this by saying I'm not dogging on Australia at all. People learn from my experiences of living in this country. For further context, I'm an English person. I'm 29. I moved to Australia 2 years ago on a working holiday visa, but I haven't lived in the UK in 3 years. Yeah, I do love it here, but obviously there's things that we don't necessarily like about all countries, and that is okay. So I thought, this is a good, interesting topic for you guys to learn about things that I don't like about living in Australia. If you're new around here, make sure you hit subscribe down below. There's also loads of moving to Australia resources. There's a free mini guide. There is an ebook that I published. It has over 100 pages. I think it's on sale at the moment. And yeah, go follow me on Instagram. I post a lot more stuff on there as well. These things are not in any particular order. They are completely random. I just sat down and wrote a list of like 10 things I don't like and 10 things I do like about living in Australia. So these are those 10 things. Number one is Australia is not very walkable. I've found that I really struggled living here without a car, and now I have a car. It's much easier to get around because the distances are just huge. And if you're not in major cities, the public transport kind of sucks. Within this as well, this is going to be controversial, so don't come for me, please. This is just based on my personal experiences, and maybe it's just where I live. I thought it was a me thing, and then my family spent a month here, and my best friend spent like 3 weeks here, and they felt the same as me. They said, let's blame them. They said, people in Australia don't know how to drive. That's what they said. Don't shoot the messenger. But yeah, I feel that drivers here are a bit crazy. Everyone's driving around in their big 4x4s. And honestly, I have, like, as everyone does, I get anxious sometimes. I am such an anxious driver because, like, just being a driver in Australia, like, people do stupid shit. Like, they just like weave in and out of traffic, or they just like absolutely bomb it, or they just suddenly brake, or they don't indicate, they just pull out of anywhere. And it happens every single time I get in the car. I'm not even joking. Like, no one's perfect at driving, but I've driven in so many countries around the world, but I've just noticed that people in Australia, oh my God, I don't know how they pass their driving tests. No offense, Australia. Love you people. Don't love you driving. Sorry. Number two, the weather here can be very extreme. So mostly it's blue skies and it's pretty warm where I live. However, when it rains, like it really rains. Prime example, when I first moved here, I think it was during the La Nina period. So there was like extreme rainfall. Shit you not, I moved to Australia for the good weather. It rained for 3 months straight. And I'm not talking a little bit of rain like we have in England. Like buckets of rain. There was floods. It was insane. Like, you'd step into the road and your foot is just like submerged. Like every day I'd walk to work and my feet would just be like submerged into water. And I'm like, wait, I have wet socks all day now. So yeah, I love the country and the weather mostly, but it just can be so extreme sometimes, like more extreme than the UK. Number three, and I'm sure a lot of you can probably relate to this, is Australia is so far away. I hate that if I want to go home, it would take a day. It would take $2,000, well, probably more than that. And I just don't get to spend much time with my family or friends. Like, I left the UK 3 years ago. I traveled for like a year and then I moved to Australia. So I'm used to being away. My family and friends are used to me being away. But still, I have this like daily guilt of, oh God, I feel like I'm missing out on like special time with my friends and family. Like, I still speak to them a lot, but when you're like, I'm 11 hours ahead from the UK right now. So that means I'm generally asleep when my family and friends are awake and vice versa. So it makes it really difficult to communicate, and it's just really far away. Like I said, I couldn't get further away if I tried. This next one kind of lives up to the stereotype, but not too much. So coming to Australia, I was like, I know there's going to be bugs and spiders, etc. Haven't really seen many spiders. Had like one in my apartment, but it's the other things like bugs, cockroaches, and birds. I had a bird fly into the apartment the other day and it shit all over the living room. It shit on the kitchen floor. and there was feathers everywhere. And this is not the first time it's happened, but it's just a bit traumatizing. And the birds like sit on the balcony and they swoop here. So like I have like been nearly swooped so many times. You have to like sort of duck and run away from the bird, and it's actually really scary. The other thing is cockroaches. Every single place that I have lived in Australia and many places that I've traveled to, like accommodation wise, cockroaches. Cockroaches is a very normal part of life in Australia. Even my apartment now, it's on the 3rd floor. It's very clean, it's new, but I still get cockroaches sometimes. That is just a part of living in Australia. No matter how clean you are, you're gonna get cockroaches. Number 5. Now, I don't know if this is a me thing, but I find that the fresh produce here just doesn't last very long. Now, I remember way back when, like 3 years ago, when I lived in the UK, I used to do like food shopping once a week, and that would last me the whole week. In Australia, I go to the supermarket every day, if not every other day, because I'll put strawberries in the fridge or I'll buy fruit and veg, and then it only lasts like a day or two before it goes rotten. Number 6, this is a really big thing for me because I'm a very social person. I find it extremely difficult to find community and friends in Australia. So I live in like a local town. There's not many tourists, not many travelers come through here, which means everyone has their established friendship groups because they've lived here their whole life. So it can be difficult for someone like me, not from this country, to try and integrate myself into new friendship groups. When I lived in Sydney, I found it extremely easy to make friends because it's a very transient city, so people are coming and going all the time. But in the same cycle, people are leaving. So you make some really good friends and then they piss off. And it's just like, wow, nice knowing you, buddy. Number 7. Now this is a love and hate. I love like all the cool places there are to visit in Australia, but Australia travel is fucking expensive. It's so expensive. So to get to the other side of Australia, so Perth, for instance, it's about a 5-hour flight and it costs like £300 to £400 return. Now, when I was living in the UK, I could fly to America for that. I could fly to Asia. Here, I fly that distance and I'm still in Australia and it costs me the same amount of money. So I'm used to it now, like flights on the East Coast, pretty cheap. But if you want to fly anywhere other than the East Coast, it's going to cost you money. And even things like hotels, camper vans, just a bit more expensive, but it's fine because, you know, I find that all the experiences I've had in Australia, like travel wise, have been second to none. Like I've never really been disappointed with any of my travel experiences in Australia. Number 8, it is really difficult to stay in Australia. So a lot of Brits, they come to Australia, they fall in love with the lifestyle, which is literally what happened to me. And then you're like, right, okay, how do I stay here? There's a million visa options. It's just really expensive. Like me, for instance, I'm currently on my 2nd year working holiday visa. Now, one of my only options to stay is to do a skilled visa, which is going to cost probably $8,000 to $9,000, and it includes getting paperwork from like years ago and just all this documentation. And it's like, I feel like they make it really hard for you to stay in Australia. And if you're an expat in Australia, you know what I mean. Like everyone I meet that is not Australian, I'm like, what visa are you on? How long have you been on that visa? Any tips? Do you have an immigration agent? Like that's just such a normal conversation. And it's so funny because I've never lived this experience before of like living fully in another country where you're having visa issues. Everyone's got a visa issue. Number 9, it's a given, the sun. I love the sun because I'm a warm weather guy, but it scares me. I have traveled all around the world and never had any serious burns, fingers crossed. However, in Australia, even if it's like a cloudy day, you're still gonna get burned. I don't know if this is just my skin, like I've got a bit of a tan. I don't really, well, before I moved to Australia, I didn't really burn easily, but being here, I can like look at the sun and it'll be like, bam, red. Step outside, bam, red. I'll be driving to the shop, bam, red. It's really annoying. So I feel like I'm constantly, like I have sunscreen by the door. Every time I leave the house, I put sunscreen on because I'm like so paranoid. I've had a few burns, like I'll show you in a second. I don't know if you can see, my nose here is like a bit red. And my chest, it's just always red. I don't know why. So yeah, I really dislike that I have to put sunscreen on every time I leave the house, and I'm really scared to get burnt because there's no ozone layer over Australia, and that is why the sun is so powerful. And number 10, something we can all probably relate to at the moment, the cost of living here is high. And I'm not talking like that high, but it's kind of a lot higher. When I first moved here, I was like, oh my God. Like I was like, I don't think I can afford to live here because these prices are insane. I'm a lot used to things now, but when you move here, you'll have this initial 3-month shock period where every time you go to the store, you'll have full-blown anxiety over how much you're spending on food. Some things are cheaper here. So like petrol is half the price here. I think it's like $1.70 per litre. So that's about 75, 80p in British. But things, and oh yeah, and energy bills are cheaper. Rent's kind of the same, but food is a lot more expensive, and cleaning products. So I feel like this is the biggest scam of Australia, dishwasher tablets. I don't know why, but they are so expensive. Like they do these stupid deals where they're like 50% off on dishwasher tabs, only $28, reduced from like $70. But I'm like, how do dishwasher tabs cost so much money? It is absolutely insane. So yeah, that's kind of one thing that is a bit triggering about living in Australia, is like some things are very expensive and it's very annoying. I hope you have found this video useful and interesting as someone that maybe doesn't live in Australia, or maybe you're planning to move here. Like I said, I have so many resources down below if you are planning to move to Australia. And again, I'd want to mention I'm not dogging on Australia. There is so many things that I love about living here. So make sure you go watch my 10 things I love about living in Australia video before you comment on this one. And if you do live in Australia, or if you're Australian, let me know down in the comments below. What are some things that you absolutely hate about living here? Thanks again for watching this video. Make sure you hit subscribe to see future videos. And until next time, take care and peace out.